my God, you guys, like I gave you a list, like follow the list. I lost my paper. You had it 3 seconds ago. And it was just, because it was just funny, because it was like literally constant, and it wasn't even complaining. It was almost like mini bickering the entire time. And so at the end, I was exhausted. You know, it was like a 10-minute exercise. And I'm like, well, this was a waste of time. I'm never doing this again. And then for the rest of the day, everyone kept looking for eggs because they thought I still hid more. And then they started talking about how much fun they had. And I was like, and I'm like, I never would have thought that you enjoyed that. In fact, I was like, not doing it again next year because it was so traumatic for me.
Did you have any more eggs hidden?
I didn't. However, I then bought, I found these plastic eggs that you can dye, which was really cool. And so then I made one for everybody.
There you go.
Yeah, put their initials on it, and then everybody get to hide somebody else's eggs. And the rule was, if you find your egg, you keep it. If you find someone else's egg, you can leave it or you can rehide it. And
that's cute.
At I think the Friday before, or the Thursday before Easter, and the last egg was found yesterday. So.
Oh my goodness.
I think that
took them a little bit, a couple of. What is that? A couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, I think they just kept rehiding it because everyone kept finding that one particular egg. And they were good spots. Like, the only reason I found mine is because one of my CSRs hid my egg in a drawer up front in the, like, where we file, you know, papers we've scanned in. And I was hiding another CSR's egg there. And when I opened it, I found mine. So that's the only reason I found it. Otherwise, I think I would still be looking for it. But it was fun.
Well, that's important to have just fun little activities like that. And yeah, sometimes it is a little bit of extra work for the manager, but I think that it really does pay off. I do get a lot of positive feedback when we do different things like that. So
yeah, I think the important lesson I learned was just don't listen to them while they're bickering while they're doing it. Just
do it.
Yeah.
There you go. Build that culture.
Yeah. So my last question for you is about the pulse surveys. Was that something you had started when you joined us?
I inherited it.
Okay.
It's a you know, I don't know specifically who originally came up with it. We have tweaked it since I've come on board, but it's something that honestly, David Strauss and David Mervin, again, wanted lots of avenues for people to give feedback. And so it was something that was established originally with the original PetWell group.
And I know excuse me, it's a quarterly, super quick survey that comes out that's based on the tenants. And, you know, it's you click smiley faces or frowny faces as far as how you're feeling, and then you put comments. And it's funny because I think people enjoy doing them now, but I don't know, the first 2 years I was there, it was just, every time they came out. And then there was a whole controversy about the difference between anonymous and confidential.
Yep.
Because a lot of people, and that was, honestly, I think that was, you know, Jessica and myself didn't explain it well, but there was misunderstanding that, like, no one knows who filled out what, but it has to go to your leadership team, otherwise we can't make it better.
True.
So then, I don't know, like a year ago is when we had the, you know, confidential gate, and it was like nobody wanted to do it after that because they were like, well, you know, it's going to go to leadership. And then I think people realized, oh, well, it has to go to them so that they know who can improve, but they don't know who filled it out.
Yeah.
And so it's a work in progress. Although I don't know what it is, but it's like the pulse surveys, it's without fail. They come out like right when you've had the worst week of the quarter.
Of course. That's fair.
Yeah, it's like something silly happens or something really dramatic and sad happens, and then you're like, I remember one time I was like, man, this has been a rough, sad week. I bet we're gonna get a pulse survey, and then sure enough,
it shows up.
Yeah.
Well, and I think on that key, you know, when we're training our managers to do their QDMs, we say, hey, when you're sitting down to do them, make sure that you're bringing your notes with you so that you're not just remembering what happened in the last 5 days, because you've had 90 days of great things and sad things and hard things and, you know, awesome things that have happened. So make sure that you're thinking back on your full 90 days. And so, you know, that's what I would stress to our team members when they're taking that pulse survey, that in that very moment, they might be going through a struggle. But remember, we're asking you, you know, if you think back in that last 90 days, how did you feel? Because, you know, I know that not every single day was hard. I expect everybody's going to have hard days, but not every day is hard. And if every day is hard, come talk to me, because it should not be hard like that. But, you know, how did that last 90 days really, really go? And if you feel that it was, you know, a little rocky or not great, what are things and suggestions you have that our leadership team can actively engage and improve on? So the comments we get back that give us really action items, we're able to attack those really, really quick, because we understand exactly what you want and what you need to feel better and you know, be more satisfied in your position. So you know, that's really the intention of it. Now, with the confidentiality level and the anonymous level, I encourage as many people as possible to take that survey. We call it mandatory. You know, we know that there's people that don't take it, and, you know, for whatever reason, but we really do want everyone to take it, because if we only have 1 or 2 people that actually take it, well, yeah, we don't know who took it. We have no way to know who took it and whose comments it has, but it doesn't give us a really good gauge of, like, how people are truly feeling. And then those 2 people, if they left comments, they're going to feel like, you know, kind of isolated out there. But if we have 20 people take it, now we know, okay, we know how this hospital feels across the board, and we've got, you know, 15 comments to address. And, you know, we're gonna read through them. We have to read every single one of them. And I think our team should be really proud that the leadership takes it that serious, that we sit down once a quarter and we sit around the table and we read every single comment that comes through. And we purposely discuss, how can we do something better? Is this something we can take action on? And if so, how are we going to do it? And we don't leave until we have those plans in place. So, I mean, I think it's really cool that all the way up the totem pole, people care and they want to know and they want to provide that outlet to the team.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think that is a great summary of the purpose, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really fun to read them too, because you know, not all the comments are terrible comments either. Sometimes we get really positive and they're like, wow, I really loved it when X, Y, and Z happened. And, you know, that's so motivating as well from a leadership perspective, so we can say, okay, that's something we need to continue in the future. That's great. They liked it. They appreciated it. They knew what it meant. Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
awesome.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. And
sure,
if there's any other aspects of the HR you wanted to mention, I'm all ears.
Sure. I mean, I think the thing to leave on would just be kind of what we started with. You know, HR is here to support our team, and, you know, that could look different for every single person, but to always feel free to reach out, and we'll get to you, and we'll get to your concern, or we'll get to your question, and you know, try to take action on it as fast as possible. So just always feel free to reach out to us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Whitney. And
thank you. This was fun.
Well, yay! See, not scary.
Yeah, I have to think about it and make me really think about what excites me about my job. So that's always helpful too.
See, this was your QDM.
Yeah, it feels like it, which is good. I had mine like last week, but I'll take it.
Oh, nice. So that was a pretty neat glimpse into the inner workings of the Human Resources Department at PetWell, as well as a better understanding as to why we have such a strong foundation in quarterly development meetings, as well as helping to motivate and encourage all of our team members across the board, because everybody together is what makes a hospital successful and what allows us to provide the best care possible. And it's extremely important to ensure that everyone feels motivated and has a clear understanding of what they bring to the table. And now we're going to move on to the Pet Tales portion of the podcast. Ooh, that's really hard to say. Pet Tales portion of the podcast. And we're going to hear about the adventures of Max and Zack.
I own Zack now, but when my dad passed, he had 2 dogs, Zack and Max, and I was taking care of both of them. But I was going through transition, so my friends had the 2 guys, Zack and Max, go stay on a farm, like literally on a farm, where people there looked at me like I was crazy because my dog had a bed, and it was like, if your dog's not working and just sleeping outside, you're ridiculous. So they spent a lot of time just outside in this fenced-in area with the horses, and they loved it, but it was a little strange for them. So one night the farmers left the gate open apparently, and Zack and Max, 2 black labs, just took off like across the farm. And I got this text, your dogs someone found my dogs. I didn't even know they were had escaped because I didn't know what was going on the farm. They were just up in near Poolsville, Maryland, or Dickerson. So we call back, my friends that I was staying with and we call, because she knows the people a little better. And this very nice young guy said he had found my dogs. I was a little bit panicky, and then he was incredibly loving of dogs, and he said, "Oh no, it's no problem. They're the sweetest dogs. We just adore them, and no worries about it. We just wanted to let you know." And it said, well, I can't come and get them because they're supposed to be at the farm next door. So apparently when they escaped, they just went to this was a big family farm, this awesome place. But they apparently just went to the next group of friendly people. So they essentially picked this place, and this place had pigs, and it was working fine. These people were just amazing. So what happened, consequently, I found out later after I drove up there, was the people who were watching them were like, fine, you guys have them, you like them, why don't you just take them? I didn't even know where they were. I couldn't find them, so I went over there. And then this guy says to my friends and I, he says, my sister just loves your dogs. And it turned out that his sister, she was a nurse, she was a stay-at-home mom, she had a family. They had just lost their black lab 2 weeks before. And I was a little concerned because although I could take care of both of them, I didn't feel like I could give them enough, attention. And so I was in the back of my mind looking for a home for Max, the other one, who's not obsessed with me like this guy is. And she, he mentioned that she might be interested. And my friend, who was pushing them to be adopted more than me, Max, I was a little hesitant. But she put it out there, he's up for adoption and, blah, blah, blah. And she was kind of the one that helped push me toward that because I didn't want to put an ad, I didn't want to do any of that. So she spent some time, they stayed out there, and we talked it over, and she wanted to talk with her husband, and they had all this stuff for a lab. They loved labs, they lived on this farm, and I went out to visit a couple times, and they had them in this little fenced-in area with little doggy hammocks right next to the pigs, these big black pigs that looked kind of like, them, and the pigs were super friendly, and I kept saying, and the dogs are kind of my dogs were they were okay with it. But I don't know what these pigs are, these, horse. I don't understand farm life. Why am I outside all day on this hammock? But they were, they were well taken care of, and these people took care of them while I was transitioning. They didn't have to keep both of them. They just wound up there. So eventually I went up to visit, and I could see that Max had really bonded this woman. I wanted to know a little bit about her first, and she was super responsible. She wanted all his vet records, and he was never neutered either, and she actually considered breeding him, and I could tell that he liked her already, when I went up. So it seemed to really fit. Not that it was easy. It was incredibly painful, and I haven't been back to visit since, even though they said I could come and visit. So consequently, he got adopted, and they said, if you really can't take them, they said, well, we might take him. I'm not really sure, Zack, I'm not really sure how it would work because he's so one-on-one obsessed, and he's not as easygoing. And I was like, no, he has to stay with me. So anyway, that was the story that we kind of felt like they chose. They chose their owners, and these people had just lost their dog. So it's like these 2 dogs just show up on their farm, And now, you know, people say, sometimes for a while, people are like, oh, poor Max, and you had to separate him, and he could care less, you know. And the other, and like Max has, I couldn't even imagine a better life. Like, they have a beach house. She's super smart. There's extended family. There's animals, and she's home all day long.
Yeah.
And